Ever since the start of Season 9, we've seen less popular heroes come into the limelight because of very simple changes, such as the size of projectiles being increased and the health pool going up. One primary example is Echo, who is now very much in meta because it's much easier to hit shots whilst aerial, and she deals a bunch of damage with her abilities. Another one of these heroes coming into the meta is Cassidy. His abilities allow him to have both high survivability and high damage. Plus he has such a specific playstyle that allows him to work against a lot of the other heroes in the meta, like Sombra and Tracer. And in this video, I'm gonna break down this playstyle and tell you exactly how to play Cassidy, because good lord, he's great this season. If you're a DPS player, you should definitely be playing him. But first, I'm going to ask you to subscribe and leave a like on this video, as I want to continue making Overwatch 2 related content that's not only entertaining, but educational too. First things first is kit breakdown, because the most important part of learning how to play a hero is knowing what their abilities do. I'm not going to dive into his gun because it's pretty obvious what it does. It's a 6-shooter that fires single rounds in primary fire, which is great at all ranges, or all rounds in a volley in secondary fire, which is great for finishing off kills at closer range. Ability 1 is his dodge, which upon activation allows him to mitigate damage taken and reload his gun. It can be used just for movement if you're coming back from spawn, but it's best to save it just in case you enter a situation where you need to stay alive on point when contesting. Ability 2 is his magnetic grenade, which chases enemies down and adds the hindered effect before exploding and dealing damage, which makes it so they can't use movement-based abilities and slows them. For example, if Cassidy hinders a Tracer, that Tracer can't just blink away and Cassidy can easily kill her. My first tip for learning how to play Cassidy is to take a somewhat passive playstyle. Whilst Cassidy's gun has 2 fire rates, only the primary fire rate is effective because it's high impact and has quite a high damage fall-off range, whilst the secondary fire rate is about as effective as shooting spitballs at a panzer. Because of this, we can play Cassidy quite passively and still add a lot of value to the team fight because we're very effective at a range. We're pumping a lot of damage into the enemies at a range where they can't really do much unless they dive us or focus fire us, but because we're effectively playing with the backline, we're going to be grouped up with the supports, granted their positioning is good, and therefore are less likely to die because of this. The main thing to consider when playing Cass is your positioning and who you're targeting. Think to yourself, where am I going to be the most effective and be able to survive when focusing X character? For example, because you're a hit scan with a ton of range, you should be targeting heroes that are quote-unquote harder to hit or annoying to deal with, like Echo, because you have abilities that immobilize them and a gun that is better than theirs most of the time, especially if you're hitting your crits. My second tip for learning how to play Cassidy is to use your abilities sparingly. Don't just throw stuff out as and when you have it. Both of Cassidy's abilities are great, but very situational and should be used accordingly. Your role is best used to escape combat and keep yourself alive for long enough for your supports to get to you and keep you in the fight. And your magnetic grenade is best used on enemies with a lot of mobility to make sure that they're dealt with and can't be a nuisance during the team fight, like Tracer. If you don't deal with her first, she'll just keep poking your team on the off angle whilst the rest of the enemy team fight you up front. So eliminating that extra source of damage is paramount to not only the survival of yourself, but the survival of your entire team. My third tip for learning how to play Cassidy is to get an understanding of how his ult, Deadeye, works, because in all fairness, it is one of those ults that's kind of hard to use. Deadeye is best used when the enemy team isn't expecting it at an angle where they're not expecting it from. What I personally like to do when I use Deadeye is to try and get the high ground on the flank, so I'm kind of Batmaning the entire enemy team, looking down on them and then getting quote-unquote vengeance where possible. You need to be sneaky with Deadeye because you have to charge it in order for it to get a kill. It's a timed ult, so if the enemy team kill you before you can confirm a kill with it, then it's clearly a waste. Even if you only get 1 kill in your ult, you're still contributing to the team fight and adding value. My fourth and final tip for learning how to play Cassidy is to keep an eye on your ammo count, because realistically, you don't want to get into a fight with 2 bullets left in the chamber. Yes, you can do a lot with just 2 bullets if you're hitting your crits, but most of the time you will miss your shots, even with the increased size of projectiles. I do it, that's not really saying much, my aim is atrocious. Pros do it. Everyone does it. So don't feel bad about missing your shots, as long as you're contributing to the fight in one way or another. You're doing something, and that's good enough. Even if you're dancing around on point and missing your shots, you're still contesting, so that's something. But that just about does it for this vid. Now, take everything that I said into consideration, hop on quick play and give Cassidy a go, because whilst he's one of those heroes that takes a little bit of learning, he's absolutely amazing this season and outperforms most other DPS heroes in the roster due to him having high impact, great range, amazing abilities, and slightly broken hit registry. I'm an absolute shit shot, but even I do great as Cassidy when I'm playing DPS, so that's really something. My accuracy should not be 42%, I'm not that good. Anyways, thanks for watching. Once again, I'm going to ask you to like this video as it lets me know that you find these videos not only to be helpful, but entertaining. I realized I hadn't done a guide in quite a while, and I also hadn't really talked about Cassidy as a whole this season. So this video kills two birds with one stone. Finally, have a nice day or night if you're watching this at night, and make sure to check out my other videos. Not only will I appreciate it, but you might too.